What's up? Welcome to Starlight Beacon. This is not a review show. Not anymore. We don't have any content to review. Not until Visions comes out. Happy Friday, everybody. Yeah, changed some things with the setup now. I'm back on the green screen. See, that's if you haven't been here in a while, or if this is your first time, I usually have a background, but now I'm all green screen. I'm all green screen now. Interesting topic we're going to talk about today. Some rumors starting to circulate from some very reputable sources that there could be a Finn-centric Disney Plus show in the works. Now, this is not the first that I've heard of it, but we're going to talk about it here today. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been received. I don't know. The reception has been kind of lukewarm. I didn't see anyone too excited about this possibility. But we're going to talk about it because I know in the Discord there was some debates. We had some conversations. There were some mixed feelings about it. Specifically about the intentions and why they're creating this show and why they're going in this direction. I have my own opinions about that, which I will share, and I'll also talk about some of the things that I've heard, going back to really around the time Mandalorian season 1, at least when I started hearing about some of these rumors. But Captain's Log, what's happening, man? Who else we got? Ain't got anybody else in here? Where's everybody at? I know I posted this link. I was so I'm still setting up my gaming PC, by the way. And I was going to try to stream off of that, but I couldn't get everything working in a timely manner. So I was like, all right, never mind. Go back to the laptop, pull the Mac out, and we'll do it the way we've been doing it until I can figure out how I can set up the stream. Because I have to do that because I do plan to stream some video gameplay, which is kind of why I've changed the setup here while I'm back on green screen, because I do want to have that functionality. And I will be streaming from Streamlabs. OBS for the gameplay, which is, I was able to get like all of my the assets from the Mac over onto the PC, but for whatever reason the camera and the mic weren't working, so I'm pretty sure I got to get some drivers downloaded or something, troubleshoot that. I didn't have enough time to do all that before we went live, but we'll get that worked out. So anyways, oh yeah, by the way, we will be reviewing What If episode 2. Don't know, I don't have a date, but we will do a video for that. We've had some had to kind of take a break this week, kind of recharge, reset our batteries, but I did want to talk about this topic today, and I'm feeling good and I'm ready to talk about it, so let's dive into it. So rumor has it that Finn is getting his own Disney Plus show, played by John Boyega, of course, as you all, or some of you may know, from the sequel trilogy. Big disappointment as far as I'm concerned, as far as the potential of his character. I felt like his overall character arc and development was underwhelming, underserved, underutilized character, like, and then all of the other things that we've heard about, what happened behind the scenes, how John Boyega felt about his treatment of the character and himself, and, just the various ways Lucasfilm, Disney mishandled that whole situation, which culminates into a lot of the issues that people have, and myself included, with the sequel trilogy. But I have been of the mind, backtrack a little bit. This is not the first time I've heard this rumor. I heard this rumor, and not only Finn, but I heard that the possibility that Finn, Poe, Rey would get their own Disney Plus shows. Wasn't Disney Plus shows, but when I heard it initially, a couple years ago, around the same time season 1 The Mandalorian concluded, that the trio would get their own solo content. They hadn't figured out which platform they wanted to go with. They were still trying to figure out if this was going to be a Disney Plus play or if they were going to get their own movies, and go to the theaters. But with, everything that's happened since season 1 of The Mandalorian, including COVID and all that stuff, and season 2 success of The Mandalorian, and the Bad Batch season 7, all of that. I'm pretty sure all that's coming to play. And, the fan reception of the sequels has been very divisive, to say the least. That's putting it mildly. I think a lot of people, there are a lot of mixed feelings. The pendulum swings, severely one way or the other, as far as how the fans feel about those 3 movies. And I, for one, am of the mind, I do want to see more stories told with those characters. I feel like every single one of those characters, including Kylo Ren, the entire cast was underserved, underdeveloped, and I would like to see more, or a continuation of their stories in some format. I think they deserve that. I think they're strong enough characters. What they created, and the concept behind each of these characters is strong enough to warrant continuing developing them. But the way those 3 stories, in my opinion, those are not the strongest stories that could have been told, given what we know about the characters. And behind the scenes, there was a lot of mismanagement. They didn't have a plan, and that's the biggest problem. Now, Dave and John clearly had a plan for The Mandalorian, and they've executed it brilliantly up to this point. Fans, it's led to a spin-off series. We know that we got more coming within this time period and within this area that tie into The Mandalorian, shows that spin off from The Mandalorian, certain characters getting their own shows and what have you. I wouldn't mind seeing the same thing done for Finn. However, it comes down to the story, because that's the most important thing. Like, you cannot, because of how he was sidelined in the sequel trilogy, you've got to come up with a very strong, character-driven story for him that's going to help that character grow. And there was another stream that I did, or I talked about, how I personally felt about how Finn was treated, starting with The Force Awakens. Like, all of the marketing and promotion for him led us to believe that he was going to become a Jedi. He's literally holding a lightsaber in all of the promotional material for The Force Awakens. He is one of the first people that we see. Kylo Ren, I believe, is the first person we saw ignite a lightsaber, but then he is the next one. It was only him and Kylo igniting lightsabers in any of the promotional material and trailers for The Force Awakens. And then for that not to materialize in the subsequent sequels is a huge disappointment, because one, the Jedi, a lightsaber is synonymous with the Jedi. So anytime you see a character in Star Wars being promoted with a lightsaber, you assume that they're going to become a Jedi, or at least a Force user, Force sensitive. They're headed down that path in some form or fashion. And for them not to do that throughout the sequel trilogy is a huge missed opportunity. And if they're going to renege on that and try to create a story that will see him fulfill that, I'm okay with that. But I need the story to be strong. Like, I need someone like a Dave Filoni. No, not someone like a Dave Filoni. I need Dave Filoni to handle that story. Like, he needs to be writing that, period. Like, I don't know who else. If he's not writing it, he needs to be co-writing and supervising, because one, his knowledge and understanding of this franchise, every time he talks about it, he gives me confidence that he is the person that should be creatively in charge of anything that comes out of Lucasfilm, or at least overseeing it. So, you know, yes, I'm okay with seeing a Finn series. Am I hype? No, not at all. Because, like I said, it's the story that's going to, you know, make or break that series. And they need to give John Boyega a lot of input in the character as well, and give him the opportunity to be in the writer's room and maybe even help with the script, because he's a Star Wars fan. We know that he's a Star Wars fan. He's talked about his love of Star Wars since before he was cast in the movie. So, and he's a creative person. He's got his own production company. His knowledge of filmmaking and just the overall field is exceptional, and his input matters. And as far as his character goes, like, if you pair him with someone like Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, or whoever, anyone really who's directed any episode of The Mandalorian, and then have Dave supervising for continuity and story, I have the utmost confidence they can create a really good series for this character, because a lot of times he felt like the comedic relief, and the way he was marketed is completely in contrast to how he actually appeared on screen when he was on screen. But I don't know, man. Where are you guys at? Who's interested in seeing a Disney Plus series with Finn? Who's interested in seeing a Disney Plus series that is focused on any of the main characters from the sequel trilogy? How interested are you guys in seeing more content from the sequel trilogy, or a continuation of that story with some of the characters or all of the characters? Like, I know that's a loaded question, but I'm gonna be here for a while. I'm gonna be here, man. I see people checking in. Hawks Holocrown, what's happening? He said more Kylo Ren. Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Like, definitely want to see. And I feel like Disney Plus is a really good place for Star Wars to exist right now. It's had a tremendous amount of successes on that platform, and really it's more or less the people who are in charge and who is crafting these stories and the care that they're taking with these stories and all of that. So all of that, factors in, and from what I've seen of everything that they've created since the sequel trilogy, they seem to have, and when I say they, I mean Lucasfilm, they seem to have learned their lesson, and they seem to have taken the lessons and the mistakes that they made making the sequels and have corrected them. I think the Bad Batch is probably the lowest on the content that they've created since the sequels, and that's there's a high bar there, and it's not like it's a bad show. It's just not as, it wasn't as good as everything else that they've put out. The Mandalorian, season 7 of the Clone Wars and what have you. So all those things are exceptional. This was a pretty average animated series for Lucasfilm, in my opinion. But I think it has tremendous potential. And then everything that I've heard about Kenobi and Andor, which I hadn't heard much about, but the way everything is kind of sort of unfolding around that show leads me to believe that there's that's going to be a really, really good show, and a lot of people are not I think a lot of people are going to go into it anticipating it to be just a Rogue One prequel, and it's going to be a whole lot more than that, which I think it's a good thing. Let's see. Go to the comments. Ash Hammer. Oh, did I shout out Coop Daddy Yoda? If I didn't, shout out Coop Daddy Yoda. Checking it. Ash Hammer. I'm definitely interested. I liked him in most of everything most out of everyone in The Force Awakens. They did his character dirty. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree. I think, we talked about this before. Finn, his archetype was Kyle Katarn. Like, if you're a lore fan and if you are, somewhat familiar with the extended universe, Kyle Katarn is the literal archetype for Finn, and how they didn't do that, I have no idea. And for those of you who don't know, Kyle Katarn is a character from Legends who apprenticed under Luke Skywalker, but he was a ex-Imperial stormtrooper that was Force sensitive, that trained under Luke Skywalker, learned how to become learn how to use the Force, and became a Jedi eventually. And he wielded a blaster as well as a lightsaber. Like, he used both. He used his military training as well as his knowledge of the Force and skill with a lightsaber. He's kind of like that cool hybrid rogue character, which exactly lines up with Finn. He's an Imperial or First Order stormtrooper that defects, shows some signs of Force sensitivity, and then you're looking at it, and all of the marketing material, like I said, had him holding a lightsaber for The Force Awakens, even fighting with it. We saw some sequences where he was fighting Kylo Ren. We saw the third act where they fight briefly in the Force. And so, for all of us lore junkies and the people who are somewhat familiar or very knowledgeable of the extended universe, Finn looked like a version of Kyle Katarn. Like, we just knew that was going to be the archetype that they were going to go for. Like, him and Rey were going to become the next generation of Jedi, and they were going to train together, and they were going to do this together. Like, and that never happened, at least not in the sequels anyway. But hopefully something like that can happen. And so my mom, she says most definitely. Okay, so most definitely a must watch. So you're looking forward and want to see a Finn Disney Plus show. I'm with it. That boy Steve. Oh, I think I missed some comments. Let me see. Captain Slog said he watched the series. Ash says, out of everyone they could expand on in the sequels, for me, Finn is the most interesting. Yeah, he has the most layers of. We saw a lot more, and there's a lot more that they can do with Rey as a character, in my opinion. But we saw a lot. I mean, that was her story for sure. But Finn, on the other hand, of the three characters, Rey, Finn, and Poe, in that order, as far as compelling characters and the ceiling and potential for what those characters can become and how they can develop those characters, Finn and Rey are definitely the strongest. And then Kylo Ren was another one, but they killed him. So, that sucks, because I liked Kylo Ren. I thought that Kylo Ren had potential to be a very unique type of villain, or at least anti-hero within Star Wars, that they could have kept around for a long time. But hey, decisions were made. I don't agree with them, but we got to live with it and move forward. But yeah, no, I think I've got a theory. Let me finish these comments though. I'm getting off track. That boy Steve, what's happening, man? He says, I know you got the certified scoops. When's the Finn show dropping? So right now, all of this is rumor. I have no idea. And I was saying at the top that I've heard these rumors for some sort of continuation or solo projects for the main trio from the sequels, Rey, Finn, and Poe. I've heard rumors that they were planning or are planning to do some solo projects featuring those characters to help and continue to develop their stories. I heard that back around the time of season 1 of The Mandalorian. So a couple years now I've heard these rumors, but none of them made it to some major news circuits like Star Wars Newsnet and Making Star Wars, and everyone that reported basically on this rumor over this week. So to me, that would indicate that there's some legs behind this show. And I think that honestly, part of this announcement and part of this rumor breaking through to some of the top tier fan speculation run sites is because Lucasfilm may or may not be testing the water temperature of the fans right now in regards to how open they are to seeing more of the characters from the sequel trilogy. And I think that this is why this once again has surfaced. I think that they are moving in favor of this. I think they see that people, they know how people feel about how Finn was treated, and I think universally most people know and accept that this character was vastly underserviced. So, and John Boyega is a beloved person to the world and to the fans. Like, people love him. So, and his character and the energy that he brought, like he's a lot like Mark Hamill in that sense, where his love for the character and his experience with Star Wars has endeared him to the fans, and like his love and excitement, he's a very marketable person, you know what I'm saying? So if he's on board, and anytime he was at Celebration, like he was like the most engaged person on the stage. Like he seemed like he seemed most excited to be there. Like he wasn't afraid to show how excited he was. Like so he made you love him, and that's a good thing. Like you need people like that, especially if you're dealing with a franchise like Star Wars or Marvel. Like you need actors who will completely buy into the role and everything that comes with it. Not to say Oscar Isaac and Daisy Ridley didn't do the same thing. It's just he definitely stood out. He was 100% on board with it, and you could tell. So yeah, I mean, I don't even know if that answered your question. I don't have a date to be specific with you, but I know that they've got stuff planned all the way to 2025, and I'm pretty sure they're working on the Beyond. Now, this would be something that would probably be in that 2024, 2025 or later time period, but yeah, don't expect it to, there to be an announcement about this coming out next year or the year after next. It'll probably be 2024, 2025. They'll get this slate of shows out, and then we'll start seeing what's happening and what we can expect beyond 2025. Now, I will say another thing that we have to consider is, however you feel about the sequels, they're not going to retcon them. They're here to stay. So, you don't have to go and continue to watch those. Like, you don't have to do that, but just understand that these stories are here to stay, and they will continue to tell stories beyond those stories that were told. And I believe that the Filoniverse, shows like The Mandalorian that take place in that 40-year period before the sequels, they're using that time period to build out a roadmap for what will happen beyond the sequel trilogy. they're really taking their time to flesh out the galaxy and the events and everything that will transpire in that 40-year period that will set some things up that the heroes, Finn, Rey, Poe, will have to deal with once they decide to create episode 10, 11, and 12. I am really, I don't understand why they wouldn't do that at this point. Like, I think that 40-year time period, if they build it right, if they do it right, and I think Dave and John are doing an excellent job right now. But I mean, it seems like we're really going to get Heir to the Empire, and that's going to get a lot of fans hyped and, really fall back in love with Star Wars. The ones that that really fell out of love with Star Wars after the sequel trilogy or during the sequel trilogy. It's going to bring a lot of people back, just like The Mandalorian did. The Mandalorian was such a good thing because no matter where you or how you felt about the sequel trilogy or how you felt about the prequels or the original trilogy, what have you, any time or in any era in Star Wars, The Mandalorian seemed to be a common uniter of the fan base. And that was so important because, man, we were like almost in that DC range after the sequel trilogy, man. It was bad. It was bad. And then we get The Mandalorian, we get the Book of Boba, we're getting that Kenobi show, and the success of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba have made a lot of people excited. And also season 7 of the Clone Wars have gotten a lot of people back engaged in Star Wars and looking forward to new Star Wars content. And Dave Filoni getting promoted and his him rising through the ranks of Lucasfilm to become basically the creative head over there, gives a lot of people like me confidence that the stories that are going to come out of Lucasfilm from here on out are going to be very, very good. And so as long as these things and that continuity, and Dave Filoni said something this week when they're promoting the Luke Skywalker episode, the season finale of season 2 of Mandalorian, for the gallery. There was a promotional, I guess like 25 seconds. It was really short, but he was basically talking about how, essentially Star Wars is supposed to make you feel good. And, no matter what story you tell, no matter, how everything, no matter how good or bad, basically, things happen within the story, it should, at the end of the day, still make you feel good. It should be uplifting and it should inspire. And that's a really poor paraphrasing of what he said, but he understands how to tell a good Star Wars story, and that's most important. And as long as he's involved with this fan project, I have the utmost confidence that the story is going to be amazing. Oh yeah, also the Ahsoka show, but man, they made Mount Tantiss canon in the season finale of and they didn't call it by name, but in the season finale of the Bad Batch, we saw Mount Tantiss, and it came out after the episode aired that in that final scene where Nala Se is being transported is actually Mount Tantiss, and that's like a key Heir to the Empire thing, man. Like that's where Emperor Palpatine kept all the clones of himself. So, and that's where Grand Admiral Thrawn made the clone army. Was it the Shadow Fleet? I believe is it the Shadow Fleet? I can't. No, maybe it's not the Shadow Fleet. I think none of it is. No, the Katana Fleet. Why did I say Shadow Fleet? I think it's Shadow Collective. But the Katana Fleet were basically, he had cloned a bunch of, he made clones so that he could have enough personnel to man the fleet. And he did that on Mount Tantiss. And that was made canon in in that final episode of the Bad Batch, part 2 of the finale, which I didn't realize at the time of my review. I didn't know, because I think that came out like that the following week. They confirmed that was actually Mount Tantus, which is exciting, and that was something I hit on in my review, was that like it didn't really give us much to anticipate for season 2. Like, had they name dropped that at the end of that part 2, like, man, that would have changed a lot of things. That would have made me a whole lot more excited with how it ended and how it concluded. But man, I'm telling you, this Filoniverse basically extends from what we can tell, right? It goes from the end of the Clone Wars, with the Bad Batch, all the way to Mandalorian season 2, Book of Boba, Ahsoka, all of that stuff, basically, man. So it's overlapping the prequels, the originals, and this 40 years in between the two, the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. So it's very exciting, man. It's like, we'll have to see how it all unfolds, but the way they're connecting these stories right now leads me to believe that, all of this is going to inform how the next trilogy looks. They're not going to retcon the sequel trilogy, but I think a lot of the plot of the next trilogy is going to be driven by what we see happen in The Mandalorian when that concludes the Book of Boba, the Rangers of the New Republic, the Ahsoka show, this Heir to the Empire reboot, or however that's going to look, whatever that is. If that's a Disney Plus show, if they're actually going to do an Heir to the Empire Disney Plus show, I don't know what it's going to be called, but we've got Grand Admiral Thrawn. We've got someone who's building him a fleet. We know what's happening in the Ascendancy books. We know about the Grysk. Like, all of this stuff is starting to, mold together. And I think that's really the platform that will launch the next trilogy of movies. Let's see. Oh yeah, Visions. Definitely got to talk about Visions. I'm gonna talk about Visions too, man, because that looks really, really good. That tree, was it a minute long? That teaser trailer that they put out this week, that was amazing. I was like, yo, it feels different, but it's still Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like, the best thing that they did, Lucasfilm, is allow these creators and these studios to tell whatever story that they wanted to tell, because I think it will help Lucasfilm in many ways think outside of the box creatively, which is a good thing, because I think you can kind of sort of stagnate in the mud a little bit, because you're creating this Star Wars aesthetic, and that can sometimes truncate you into creating content that is very, very similar to everything else that you've put out. And something like Visions, where they don't have to deal with those constraints, they can just tell whatever story they want to, and it just happens in the Star Wars universe. That's a good thing, because that can inspire new trains of thought. You can see story elements and plot devices and characters that may or may not have happened had a show like Visions not happen. And there's a character, because I don't know which show it is, but it's an anthology project. It's an anime anthology project, 7 episodes, I believe, and each one is its own story. With, they got what? It's what, six studios, 7 projects. But one of them has this very Seven Samurai aesthetic, and there's this guy who looks. I mean, he looks just like a samurai with a lightsaber, basically. It's red. He looks so much like Kylo Ren. Like the way he is portrayed in the trailer makes me think of Kylo Ren. And I posted this in the Discord. I was like, yo, it's like they almost created, it's like a fanfic version of Kylo Ren. You know what I'm saying? Like, they saw Kylo, the studio saw Kylo, and it was like, what if? And then they took it and told their own story, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, that one is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Basically all the ones that are in black and white. All right, let me go back to the comments, man. Y'all are rolling in here. Yeah, definitely. They're definitely testing the waters. Anticipation. That boy Steve is anticipating number 1 Ahsoka. That's good. 2 Kenobi. Book of Boba Fett at number 3. That's interesting. That's interesting that you put Book of Boba. You got Ahsoka at number 1 and Book of Boba at number 3. I would like to know why. Just out of curiosity, why Kenobi over Boba? Because with Ahsoka, here's what I'm thinking. Like, the way, because you have Ahsoka ranked number 1, I would think that Book of Boba would also be, your number 2, because those series tie together, at least closely, more so than Kenobi does. And what you may or may not be, anticipating with the Ahsoka show, you're going to get some more of probably in the Book of Boba as well. But the Ahsoka show is probably, that show will determine whether or not we're getting Heir to the Empire. That's what I'm predicting. Like, or it's going to be an adaptation of Heir to the Empire. It's not going to be Heir to the Empire exactly as it was novelized back in the late 80s, early 90s, whenever those books came out. It'll be a nice adaptation, because I hope they don't entirely overlook and retcon a lot of the things that Thrawn is doing in the Ascendancy trilogy, because I like that novel, that trilogy of novels, and I think that I like how that version of Thrawn can be a character that we can have in the Star Wars universe for a long time. And hopefully he won't. I don't want him to suffer the same fate that he did in Heir to the Empire, because that would not be ideal. I want the character. I want Thrawn to be around for a little while, a lot longer than he was in the in Heir to the Empire, at least. Ash is also most excited about Kenobi. I'm looking forward to Kenobi. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think that's going to be a really good show, but I don't know. I think that's going to be more so of a standalone thing than everything else that's coming out, like Ahsoka, Book of Boba, Season 3 of The Mandalorian, which actually begins filming next month, I believe, right? I think that's what Carl Weathers said. And then, what did I say? Ahsoka, Boba, Season 3 of The Mando, Andor, all of those, and then, Bad Batch Season 2. All of those, there's a lot more continuity between those shows than the Kenobi show. And for me, I guess because I'm looking at it for continuity, I want to see how all this stuff is going to connect and, guide the future of the franchise. And then Kenobi's not, maybe it will. Maybe because I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they're going to introduce some new characters that will persist beyond the show, that can also be brought into other series and also help guide the future. Not sure, but right now everything for me is continuity. That boy Steve says, I swear not reading enough Legends books and comics got me seeing things different. A base inside a forest, cool. Y'all, It's Mount whatchamacallit. That means the thing. Yeah, man. Like I said, hey, the thing is, continuity in Star Wars has always been a thing. Like for us, like Heir to the Empire kicked off the entire expanded universe. So all the stories basically told after that tied into each other, and so you know, we're used to continuity within the stories. We're used to certain things and events and characters being referenced in one book and brought into another, tie-ins, crossovers, the whole nine. So, yeah, I mean, all of that stuff actually, you know, at one point in time, yeah, it was all connected. Um, so we just accustomed to looking for the connections between content and and characters and events. Like it's cool to read about um something like the Mandalorian Wars and then have them referenced in a game down the line, and then be mentioned in another comic book series in an entirely different era. Like it's stuff like that always makes it worthwhile. Like it's rewarding to the readers and to the consumers of the content. That boy Steve says, I feel like Book of Boba will be a self-contained thing. Ooh, that's not the case. That's not the case, sir. I promise you, it's not. It's not going to be. And I tell you why. Boba Fett in this time period in Legends was a very important character in the Star Wars universe. Like he's very important. And if they're doing Heir to the Empire, and Heir to the Empire inevitably led to the Vong War, which I think will be the Grisk War, but that's a conversation for another stream. Maybe next week we can talk about that. But we saw in Legends Boba Fett become Mandalore, leader of the Mandalorians. He constructed, his own lightsaber, and him becoming Mandalore helped the New Republic fight the Vong War. He got the Mandalorians to fight the Vong and to repel the Vong, and without his aid and without the help of the Mandalorians, like, that doesn't happen. Now that's going to change a bit, but his importance to the story and to this time period, it's still fundamentally there, and it's going to be I'm anticipating that some of that will come into play. Now I know that right now it's probably the safe bet, of course. It's looking like Din or Bo-Katan will become Mandalore, and but I still think that Boba has a very, very important role to play in the future of Star Wars. That's for sure. And man, come on, like, Tamara Morrison, man, like, one, why has he not been in more movies? Like, that voice, he's such, like, he seems to me like the type of actor that should have had an amazing career. Like, he should be like, the modern day Harrison Ford. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has that gravitas and that demeanor and his, the physical appearance and the voice and all that stuff. It's like, he's such a great character actor that he should be like a big movie star, but he's not. But I'm glad that we can have, him be in the be Boba Fett. Maybe this was, jumpstart that for him, because he could definitely be an action star. That's for sure. He's got the look, and he's got the sound, he's got the voice, he's got the, he's got the package, he's got the total package there. Hey, listen. Yes, but everything is coming. A lot of things are coming back. A lot of things from Legends are being brought back into canon, and being not not as they were completely, but essentially a lot of those story elements when they're bringing them back into the fold are basically as they were, essentially the same. Not not a complete carbon copy of what we knew, but you know it basically gets the same point across. And so that's what I'm anticipating with the Book of Boba. Like, it is very much a part of the Mandalorian, and Din Djarin is going to appear in the series. Also, they had, and this may have been just to confuse the actors and the press and what have you, and to keep it from leaking, but while they were shooting the Book of Boba, it was the script said Mando season 3. So all of the actors, probably minus Tamara Morrison, thought, and at least Ming-Na Wen, who plays Fennec Shand, at least she was under the impression that she was shooting season 3 of The Mandalorian the entire time, but it happened to be Book of Boba. So, don't think that it's not going to be closely tied into everything else that's going on, because clearly that's an indication that this series is going to be very integral to The Mandalorian, and we know The Mandalorian right now is driving Star Wars within this time period. Yeah, man. Look, we need more Mandalorian content. Point blank period. I'm glad that the Mandalorians now are getting the shine and the credit they so rightly deserve, because they've been a staple within Legends and the extended universe for years now. So I'm finally glad that the mainstream fan base and audiences are getting some exposure to the Mandalorians in live action. And hopefully there's more to come, man. I hope season 3 is entirely on Mandalore and deals with Mandalore. Because it's time. And I still need my Mandalorian Wars series or anthology of movies. That has to happen, because, who doesn't want to see the Jedi Order versus the Mandalorians? Like, why would you not want to see that? Like, how can you call yourself a Star Wars fan and not be interested in that? Like, that's insane to me. That's insane. But hey, you know what? Guess what? I'm rambling now. So I'm going to, I think it's time for me to call it. I've touched on everything I wanted to as far as this Finn Disney Plus show. In conclusion, I want to see a Finn show, but for me to get excited about it, I'd have to know more about who's behind the project, who all's involved, how involved John Boyega is in the script, and if Dave Filoni, number one, and first and foremost, like, Dave Filoni has to be involved in overseeing the project from a creative standpoint, and John Boyega has to be involved as well in the story making process. Like, if they're going to do this right, and if they're going to do this with each of the main characters from the sequel trilogy, John, Daisy, and Oscar Isaac deserve to have as much input into the character as they can afford, and have people like Dave Filoni and the Lucasfilm story group oversee the script for continuity, of course, and make sure everything lines up and is working in accordance with everything that they're doing for all their other projects, because we want these stories, one, they have to be character driven. They've got to continue to develop these stories. And I think Disney Plus is a great format for them to do that, because we can get 7 or 8 episodes of 100% character development for these characters and make us care more than we already do about them, which will only get us, more excited for episodes 10, 11, and 12. when we see these characters in, and possibly alongside some new characters that will be introduced in the Filoniverse. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but it needs to tie into the Filoniverse. I'm thinking about, I'm gonna try to, if I can get this this thing, my gaming PC figured out, and figure out what's wrong with my camera and my mic, make sure all that's working over on that. I might stream some games tonight. I can't stream Star Citizen, unfortunately, because I don't have the RAM that is needed to play the game and also stream. I'm gonna need at least 32 gigs of RAM in order to do that, and I don't have that right now. But you know, upgrades of course will come with time. But there are other games I can definitely play, like SWTOR. I can play Transport Fever, Empire at War, and some other, you know, games like that. Things that aren't as taxing as that game is. Not that I can totally, so I can play it and stream, but I'm gonna have to like drop some of the graphics a little bit, just so you know everything can run smoothly. But then that's going to take away from what really makes that game amazing, and it is the attention to detail and the graphics. And like, I mean, there's so much packed into that game. It's incredible. Like, it's probably one of the most immersive games I've ever played, as far as like realism and like just how connected you are to that universe. And just like I said, the detail is extraordinary. But yeah, I can play other games for sure on full, because you know, if I'm going to stream on a gaming PC, I need to be everything to run everything on max settings and also stream without losing any quality on either end. So that is the goal. But yeah, you know, if I can do that, I will definitely, you might see me tonight, or it'll definitely be tomorrow, Sunday, you know, Saturday and Sunday. But either way, if I don't see you again tonight, I will probably see you guys tomorrow. And if that doesn't happen, I will see you guys next week. What If Review season episode 2, the Cookout, all coming back to next week. We'll also be reviewing episode 3 of What If, as long as you know everything goes smooth. And then I'll be back here talking about something next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, look at Mike Porter showing up. Sir, you are late to the party, but it's all good. I appreciate you hopping in anyway. I'm closing out, but it's good to see you. Definitely. Hey, drop your mic if anyone else is joining late. Just drop your comments in. I want to know how you feel about a Disney Plus show starring Finn and or any of the other sequel trilogy characters. I want to know, so drop those in the comments at the end of the video. And hope to see you guys next week. As I always say, peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.